Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? The show that brings you answers to many of the questions that you may have, but with no one to ask. Do You Ever Wonder is hosted by Mike Haltman, CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, who, like you, has always been deeply curious about a wide variety of topics. Each week, Mike will be speaking with guests who are leaders in their field and who have inspirational stories to tell. So now, sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Haltman. I am indeed the host of the Do You Ever Wonder podcast. And we have with us today Dr. Michael Hutchinson. And do you go by doctor or is Michael okay?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. I am a doctor, and my mother named me Michael, so.
Well, you know, and that was a good choice.
We're good with it.
But if I was going to call a dentist anything, I would call them pain givers. But in this case, I'll call you Michael.
In that, you'd be wrong. This day and age, maybe back in 1960s, but this day and age.
That was my first pain, 1960.
Yeah, we have lasers. We have all kinds of things that can alleviate that.
Well, but the reason that Michael is here today is that I remember back when I was a younger man on a lacrosse field or a football field wearing a mouth guard that was typically molded in boiling water, typically dirty, and designed to keep me from breaking my teeth and I suppose losing my teeth. Unfortunately, it wasn't designed to keep you from killing the nerves in your teeth, but Michael has developed I guess, would you call it revolutionary?
It certainly is 180 degrees away from what everybody is used to. And I'm glad you brought up about breaking your teeth, because in 1950, that's what the American Dental Association designed a mouth guard for, because some Notre Dame players were breaking their teeth. They didn't have a mouth guard or a face guard, and they didn't wear a mouth guard. And so they were banging their teeth together and breaking off the cusps of their teeth. And the American Dental Association came up with a mouth guard in 1950. And incidentally, it's the same design as it is today in 2013.
No question. The only thing that changed was the pot that you boil it in. But
absolutely,
it's a very, well, which is incredible, because from my business school background, you know, you have mature industries, and no one could say that the mouthguard industry is not a mature industry. But then once in a while you come to find an innovation that changes that industry, and that's exactly what you have done with the PowerPlus Mouthguard.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we grew up, in order to talk on the phone, we went to the wall and stood there. Or if we wanted to call our grandma, we'd get on a party line and talk to her.
Well, I think neither one of us is quite that old, but yeah.
Well, my grandma had a party line in southern Idaho. And I'd call her. I was, 7 or 8 years old. I'd call her, and I'd have to wait for the person on the line to get off so I could talk to grandma. And now we talk face to face like we're doing right now.
That's right.
And so, yeah.
So tell me, how did the PowerPlus Mouthguard come to be? I know that concussions are up in a big way, and something, if possible, needed to be done. So how did you find the thing that can help this problem?
Well, it was a progression. In 2000, I started utilizing a technique that was just developing back then called neuromuscular dentistry. It has to do with the muscles and how they make your jaw work. And there's some syndromes that are associated with it, grinding, clenching. But the main one is called TMJ, temporal mandibular joint dysfunction, which causes people to have pain, headaches, migraines, and these are debilitating. So at the time, there was no real cure for it. It was just some things that we were trying. But back then, I started working with patients using neuromuscular techniques, and when they would resolve their pain, they would tell me that they would feel stronger. They had more energy. They didn't feel like they had to take a nap in the afternoon. They would ask me what that's all about. And I didn't really know because I'd never been taught. So I started doing some research and I found some arbitrary things that were being done. Even an article in the Sports Illustrated that described how the Philadelphia Eagles in 1980 won the Super Bowl with this doctor who made him a mouth guard, who I actually called up and asked him about it. And he told me he was doing sleep medicine then. So I started testing it. I started testing it for strength, basically, because I thought if Mrs. Jones can feel stronger, what would happen if I took the 0-9 Detroit Lions and made their front line 25% stronger? They'd win the Super Bowl and I'd be a genius. So I started working on that. And sure enough, I came across a weightlifter who was on the USA powerlifting team. He was 65 years old. He was in that category, and he won a national championship. And he actually was our police chief and fire chief. So they wrote an article about him when he won. You know, he lifted 398 pounds, most he'd ever lifted in his life. And he said the world record was 435 pounds, and he wanted to break that world record in Prague in 6 weeks. So out of faith on my part, I called him and said, I can get you your world record tonight. I didn't know if I could for sure, but I knew I could in my heart. So he came over, I made him a mouth guard. He went down to do his workout. He lifted 455 pounds that night and stopped because he thought he was going to get hurt. But he said he could do more. And so that was my first test case to know that I had come across a normal mechanism of the human body that is holding us back in strength.
So now, how did you design this? And it's also the typical mouth guard is on your upper teeth. Your mouth guard goes on the lower teeth. How did you think of a design? How did you create the design? And how did you have it ready for this power lifter who then reached his goal?
Well, I was treating TMJ patients. And so I was utilizing what we call mandibular physiologic rest position. In order to obtain that, you need the device on the lower jaw, because that's the jaw that's the movable part of the skull by 138 muscles from your shoulders one side to the other, and your brain functions to make that balance. And so I just made him a neuromuscular appliance that I would make for someone who grinds or clenches or has headaches, because of course his teeth were not in good shape. Too much clenching when he was lifting his weights, I suppose. So I just made him that at that perfect vertical dimension, where how high your teeth are. I made him a perfect mouth appliance, and knew that it would make a difference, and it did.
So these are not, now that it's more of a you have it out there for mass production, mass production in quotes, but you fitted this to him while he was sitting in your chair.
Right.
If I go to the store and buy it, how is that fitted to me? Is it the same process as I used 30 years ago?
No. It's not anything like that, except for you have to have a device that you can manipulate to fit your own personal, unique physiologic jaw position. And it's not where you can bite, because you can bite in any infinite number of positions or depths or heights if you're controlling it. You don't want that. You want your autonomic nervous system, your auto nervous system, the one that you don't control. You want that one to position your jaw. You want your brain to do it for you. And so you do that by warming up the material, and then you swallow into it. So you place it over your lower teeth. You bring your lips together like you're going to kiss your mom, and you start swallowing 5 times as the material cools down. But when you're doing that, your brain is contracting your teeth into your physiologic jaw position. So when it's cooled down, now whenever you touch your teeth together, you are always in your physiologic jaw position and never out of it, because there's a zone. If you're too far open, you're taxing your nerves and your muscles and you're weak. If you're too far closed, you're taxing your nerves and muscles and you're weak. And something that we haven't talked about, but I think is more important, even more than what we're talking about strength, is when I was testing strength, I noticed that not one of the people had a concussion. I tested over 8,000 and we ended up with 9 concussions. But initially, I made these for my son's 8th grade football team and a crosstown Catholic school. I had a friend, an orthodontist, whose sons were on that team. So we put 100 boys together and we followed them for 6 years for strength. They were 25% stronger as a whole, but none of them had a concussion, not one in 6 years. And so that made everything turn to a different turn. So,
well, let me ask you a question. I'm watching a football game, and a wide receiver is crossing over the middle of the field, and he gets blindsided by a defensive back, and it's targeting right at his head. Can a mouth guard prevent something like that?
absolutely. There's a really great video that I have. One of my poster child for PowerPlus Mouthguard is Daniel Sorensen. He played for the Chiefs for 8 years, and then last year he played for the Saints. But for 8 years on the Chiefs, 2 Super Bowls, he had no concussions playing free safety. And there's a playoff game against the Browns 3 years ago where they were just about to lose because the receiver for the Browns was running into the end zone, and Daniel Sorensen came across and hit him in his ear hole, and he fumbled before the goal line out of bounds, and it was a touchback. Kind of a controversial play, and Tony Romo said, wow, that was an illegal hit. Daniel jumps up, goes back in the game, and the guy never enters the game again.
Really?
And the problem is with football, let's just take football. The jaw is not protected in any way. The helmet doesn't go down there. The face mask doesn't go down there. The chin strap is what holds the helmet in place, holds your jaw up against your skull, and creates a conduit for the G-force that injures your brain. So the helmets are...
So the design of the helmet is actually a negative in terms of concussion prevention.
Well, it doesn't help because, of course, you can get concussions from anywhere on your head. So top of the head hits, side, back, front, those can all do concussions as well. And the helmet protects that, but it doesn't protect down here. And it actually pulls that ball and socket of your joint together and pushes it up against each other. So when you get hit down here, conducts the forces up to your brain. Wow. The bottom of the cradle of the brain is the jaw socket. It's called the sphenoid bone, and it kind of sits like a butterfly underneath your skull, and then your jaw articulates with it. So if the ball of your jawbone is away from that sphenoid bone, the force can't jump across the gap, so it dissipates out. But when it's touching, in the case where you're over closing, you're rolling back against the back and you're touching it there, or you're open too wide and you're touching it up in front. Those are 2 situations that the conventional mouth guard causes, and the helmet does not protect.
So have you done clinical studies like with those car dummies that they put into accidents? Have you done clinical studies showing the impact with or without your mouth guard?
Yeah, we did. Wayne State University, the biomedical engineering department studied strength and showed an 16.8% increase in strength, and actually took that paper internationally and published it as a new discovery. but they also wanted to test for concussions because they were one of the leading departments or universities in concussion research because of the car industry down in Detroit. And we actually did that. We did a study on a crash dummy, and we made them, we tested them with no mouth guard, with a conventional mouth guard, and with PowerPlus, and we showed a decrease in G-forces in ones that had the lower mouth guard. We also did a study with Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, and they studied a high school that actually had 180 players, but they didn't want to buy 180 mouth guards, so they just bought 90 and gave it to 90 of their best players, and the other 90 just got whatever mouth guard they wanted. There were no concussions in the one with physiologic jaw position, and there were 16 in the conventional mouth guard group.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you about, everyone these days, there's a cost benefit analysis to doing anything. So your mouth guard is what the price point's like, around $60?
It's $44 online, and that's just for a standard one that you can order, get it at your house, warm it up, fit it yourself, and you're good to go.
But that compares to a normal mouth guard, $10 about, I guess. And these schools, these teams, these intramural travel teams, they have budget constraints. So it seems to me that the cost benefit to your mouth guard is huge.
Absolutely. I saw a study a few months ago where it said that a concussion can cost you up to $100,000 in your lifetime for just receiving one concussion. Concussions are very costly because they don't know how to, we just don't know how to treat them. We don't know how to cure them. We don't know how to prevent them except for PowerPlus Mouthguard. But that's a real concern for everyone, and that's why that you're seeing people talking about banning the sport for football up until end of high school. But also the intangibles, if you're going to do that, you're going to ban them from learning how to play, from going to college. You're going to ban a lot of people from becoming a career athlete because you don't know how to, you haven't researched out every little nuance of what's taking place. And this is one of them. 0.2% concussion rate is virtually almost zero. And so if you have a good helmet, good equipment, we've done research with softball players, soccer, lacrosse, wrestling, and you still get the same concussion rate, 0.2%.
So the efficacy of your product is obviously great. And I don't want to sound like an infomercial, but I mean, it sounds like it's phenomenal efficacy. You're broadening out a mature industry into one that's could potentially be revolutionized, especially, you watch the college and the pro game, and these guys are wobbling off the field all the time. It doesn't seem to me like there are a lot of barriers to entry for what you're doing. I mean, I don't know about your production process, where you're doing it, how you're doing it, but it seems that at least teams should be knocking your door down. Are you finding that?
I'm finding it growing and growing, but in the early years, it was really difficult because just something that people don't know about doesn't exist, and what came to mind early on was Galileo. Really, he told everybody that the earth revolved around the sun, and the Pope put him in house arrest because Pope said the Bible says the earth will not be moved, and you're going to be in house arrest in jail until you recount what your heresy is. And, you know, guess what? Galileo died in house arrest because he knew he was right. And we know he's right, that the earth goes around the sun. So in 1950, they thought that putting a mouth guard up here on the upper part of the skull was the real deal. And it was, except for they didn't know about physiologic jaw position. They didn't know about concussions. They didn't care about concussions. They just cared about not having their teeth broken. And incidentally, you made a mention of knocking your teeth out. That mouth guard that's a myth. Mouth guards do not prevent that from knocking your teeth out. If you get enough blow, enough force to knock your tooth out, there's nothing that's going to prevent that tooth from coming out of the socket. But a lot of people believe that you can prevent your teeth from being knocked out with a mouth guard. But when you think about it, the mouth guard is only on the top teeth. So why don't all the lower teeth just come flying out, right? Because that's not what it does.
Right. So now you're obviously a busy guy. You're sitting here in your lab coat. So after we're done here, you're going back to work on a mouth. How do you market this thing?
I do a lot of everything online. I have some people helping me doing some activation in various events. I get on a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of media. I feel like that's the easiest way and the most effective way to reach everyone, every mom and every dad, every athlete. I've gone to many coaches clinics. Those are marginally effective.
Stop right there. Why are they only marginally effective? If you can get the ear of the coach from Ohio State, Michigan State, they're just used to doing things a certain way and they're not interested in trying anything new.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're probably going to relate to this. Everything's a business, including this. You know, I put a lot of heart and soul and my own fortune into it, and I want everybody to be safe. I want everybody to play better, but I also, you know, want to sell it, right? I have a patent on it for the next 10 years. It's the only way you can do it. But there are certain things that when I do a lot of things just to help people out, but I find that these clinics are all driven by the financial part, and I have not been able to speak at a coach's clinic about this important discovery without paying them upwards to $10,000. They want $10,000, or they won't let me talk, which I think is sad because every kid goes out and gets a concussion, and they didn't get their $10,000. So,
but it's definitely sad. But you know, in my business, because podcasting, believe it or not, even though I'm so good at it, is not what I do to make money.
Yeah.
No, but you know, I have things that I can do that are going to cost me money, and you have to make a determination whether you paying that 10 grand to get in front of these guys who are, and women, I suppose, who are making the ultimate decision of, do we move off the norm? What, how do you get them to realize that having this player on the field is worth the money, the extra money that it takes to buy your mouth guard?
I think part of it too is early on I spent a lot of time and money at some coaches clinics. I didn't get to speak, but I had a booth there, and I learned very quickly that this thing is going to take education, because there's a 73-year-old historical tradition of a mouth guard and what it does and what people think about it and how people try not to wear one. All these things that they don't like, that they don't necessarily, they're not really interested at a coach's clinic in a new discovery of mouth guard. They're interested in X's and O's.
Right.
And they think that, of course, the quarterback has to be good and he has to execute. But if your quarterback gets a you know, you got a state championship quality team, your quarterback gets a concussion, you're done, right? And so that's the challenge that I've been, and the hurdle that I've been working on for so many years, is that it takes so much money to educate that I don't have, and it's sad to me that it takes money like that. It takes like millions of dollars to get people to listen, and you know, so I've been working hard, and the word's getting out because nothing gets improved, and here I come along with a 0.2% concussion rate, and people like Daniel Sorensen who believed in me and played his whole career with no concussions. I have people that like Ray Crockett, he did a little spot for me, and I have people who, you know, aren't so they have their money basically, and say, I wish I would have had this. Marcus Ogden's another one.
Well,
So
what about, didn't Travis Kelce wear your mouth guard?
Travis Kelce got it just by sheer luck. My marketing guy was at the game, and he gave some to the trainer, and we haven't got the whole story, but somehow or other, Kelce got one, fitted it, went out and played with it, scored a couple touchdowns, came off, took it out of his mouth. You can see it plain as day.
Have you talked to him?
I haven't talked to him yet, but yeah, that's the other thing. There's all these barriers you have to get through,
right?
You get to talk to everyone.
PR
So
guy or a I forget what they call it. But,
the agents are always right there, you know.
but that would be, I mean, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
To tell you,
there isn't anything I haven't thought of.
Right.
Yet, I don't think. But yeah, it's just grinding it out. It's going to happen. I mean, it's
grinding it out. That's a good one. It's
going to happen. I mean, it's just people are starting to get concerned, you know, that there's nothing out there, and my son's going to go out and get a concussion. And I have a partner whose son got one concussion in a football game, and he went from a 4.0 student to kind of a juvenile delinquent. I mean, he has troubles. He has troubles, and he had to go. He didn't graduate from high school. He had to go back and do summer school, and he finally made it, but he's still struggling. And this kid had so much potential. Just one concussion.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I've seen kids who have had concussions, and you know, they're woozy for months. And this kid that you're talking about, that's a tragic result.
Yeah.
So I want to, I would like to help you as much as I can. I mean, it's a, you know, and the TMJ piece is great too. I know people with TMJ. I know my wife's brother had major surgery to cure his TMJ. So I might get one just to give to my wife who has minor TMJ, but
I might be able to help you out there.
I know, but it's definitely a story that's got to get out there, because you know, you watch these concussions happening game by game by game, and if it's preventable, then it serves everyone's best interests: player, coach, owner, everyone.
Here's a good one for you. I'm the mouth guard for the Polynesian Hall of Fame Bowl in Honolulu, Hawaii. They have it every year in January. The top 100 high school players, mostly Polynesian, but Tua was there, and I fitted him with a PowerPlus Mouthguard, and he went on to Alabama, and Alabama said, you can't wear that because that's not our mouthguard, and we don't sanction that. You only do what we tell you to do. And so he didn't wear it, and he got hurt several times at Alabama, and then he went to, as you know, Miami Dolphins, and he had 2 concussions. And I called him, I called his parents, I left messages.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And you've had your research published?
Yeah, the strength one was published, and the Michigan State one is out for publication.
Wow. Well, listen, I'm going to promote this as much as I can because, full disclosure, I have no financial interest, but, as a former athlete, it's, there's nothing, if there's something that can solve a problem or almost alleviate a problem, then it's something that definitely needs to get out there. So,
well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show. That's going to make a big difference.
It's my pleasure. And, I hope to have you back on after you sign with the Alabama team and the Crimson Tide using your mouth guard.
I'm going to make them sweat, but yeah, I'll eventually sign them.
All right. Well, thank you again.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And we hope that you enjoyed the show. Next week, we will have another terrific guest telling their story. And if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear more about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our curiosity, like yours, knows no bounds. Please subscribe and like and share this episode on your social media. See you next week.